Okay, welcome back. This is going to be a cutting-edge hour in terms of information, and we hope you're all tuned in with open ears. This has to do with the so-called Mexican swine flu, although it is an international swine flu now. Possibly an advanced biowarfare event. Did it get out intentionally from some laboratory? Was it released on purpose? We don't know. Here to talk about that with us, we're going to cover a lot of ground very quickly tonight, is Dr. William Deagle, MD. Dr. Bill, of course, has his own talk radio program. He is a brilliant authority in many areas of medicine and science. And joining us as well, Dr. A. True Ott, Ph.D. and N.D., who has a story up at Rense.com right now, and the top featured story, Something Wicked This Way Comes. So we urge you to read that as well. So let's first welcome back Dr. Ott. Are you there, True?
Yes, indeed, Jeff. Again, thank you for having me on the call tonight.
My pleasure. And Bill Deagle, are you there?
I am indeed. We've got the tag team here, and this is The Hammer Has Fallen.
Well, now you called me earlier today, and you made that pronouncement. And when Bill Deagle says the hammer has fallen, Dr. Deagle, tell him what you think.
Well, what's been happening is we've been monitoring for years now the spread of H5N1 around the world, and we're getting reports of game wardens in Canada, down from Alaska, British Columbia, to Washington State and Oregon, across the United States, even in the interior of selective areas where we know that there's birds dying. So there is already an avian pandemic among birds. The virus has spread, but this virus, which is H1N1, is totally new, and it's showing up in multiple spots. It showed up in the fall, H1N1, or a version of it in Japan. Now we have this all of a sudden in the last few days. It's showing up in multiple places now over a quite wide area of Mexico. I've actually looked at the specific Google map of the H1N1 swine flu, and you can see it's on the border where it's in California,
right?
It's in Texas,
right?
It's in Mexicali, but it's way down on the bottom tip of Mexico, which is very strange indeed. So this, by the way, they had no contact. The 7 cases that did recover in the United States, they had no contact with pigs. So with this, by the way, the genetics indicates that the virus has a combination of swine genes, avian genes, and genes that are Asian, which means they're from Asia. How could an Asian flu arrive here and show up in Mexico in disparate distances over 1,000 miles apart and all of a sudden jump? And we are having a case fatality rate in Mexico City from whatever strain that is of somewhere around 1 in 12 to 1 in 10 that gets infected dies.
All right, 60 dead officially so far, 60 plus, over 1,000 ill. All schools in Mexico City, a city of 20 million people, closed, including universities, colleges, and so forth. They don't want this to spread any faster than it apparently is. Where is the DNA data coming from? You mentioned several different types. This so-called Mexican swine flu, although if there is no contact with pigs, I'm not sure how swinish it is. We've got avian influenza, human flu type A. There is some type B said to be in there. Asian swine flu, as you mentioned. European swine flu components are in it as well. This is a bizarre combination, Bill.
Yeah, and the fact that we have this bizarre combination tells me that it was from a resurrected virus that has genes indicating it's from different parts of the world. So this is a lab virus. Now, how it got there, whether it's an accident, because we have thousands of biosafety 3 labs in the United States, also in Canada and elsewhere, especially since Operation BioShield and 9/11. And the remarkable thing about this, that's particularly dangerous, is this virus grows in humans, pigs, and animals, including birds, but it carries the ability to bind to human cells.
Right.
And because it can recombine now with the wild H5N1 that's all over the world,
right,
this is going to create new super recombinants. There are already people dying from this infection, but it's going to cause multiple waves that are going to come one after another.
It's going to extraordinarily increase the morbidity and mortality of this virus.
It'll probably go from a case fatality rate of, say, 5% up to 10, 20, 30%. And if it gets too lethal, it usually dies out. But what's going to likely happen is the virus is going to maximize its transport, and people carry and shed the virus for 8 to 10 days before they even get sick.
Correct.
So they're not doing anything to stop it. There's nothing to stop the borders and not tracking cases.
No.
And it's in H1N1. elsewhere is resistant to most of the, quote, drugs, and there's no vaccine from this virus.
Well, we got Tamiflu resistance now built up literally worldwide to H5N1.
By the way, the vaccines don't work anyway, but
they're
going to try to tell you that they have a vaccine. So Mexico, they're vaccinating
right.
with an old swine flu vaccine, which I'm sure is going to do absolutely
it'll make
nothing.
money for somebody. That's what it's going to do. The 1918 influenza, by the way, had a mortality rate of between 2 and 3% approximately.
Right.
The H5N1 to date is running close to 70% mortality.
Yeah, that's an average between 6 different high pathogenic clades.
Right.
What unfortunately happens is that if it recombines and the case fatality rate drops from, say, an average of 70% to, say, 20 or 30%, the number dead goes up exponentially.
Right. All right. Drew, what do you have to contribute so far to this new news? This thing really just burst on the scene yesterday in terms of news. It's been obviously lurking in Mexico for days before that. What do you know?
Well, yes, I'd just like to review what we absolutely can say for certain without any speculation. I would refer the listeners to a wonderful PBS special called Killer Flu. It was part of the Secrets of the Dead series that PBS ran. In this presentation, by the way, you can order this DVD from Amazon.com called Killer Flu, and I recommend highly anybody that really wants to know about this to verify what I'm saying. What they did is they basically exposed the work of Dr. Jeffrey Taubenberger, working for Fort Detrick Institute of Pathology, and backed by certain interests, tied to Israel. We won't go into that here, but what the show clearly pointed out was the etymology of the 1918 killer flu, which was a mix, a potpourri of just exactly what you said. It's a blend of swine flu, bird flu, and human H3N2. So there you have the recombination that killed so many people in 1918. What's important for this discussion is the fact, and I repeat, fact. This is not speculation. Jeffrey Taubenberger's team from 1997 to the year 2003 successfully mapped the genome structure and were able to basically reconstruct and like Dr. Deagle said, resurrect this killer virus. Now, there's no honestly good reason to do so logically. Let's look at this thing just with pure logic for a minute. The cover that they're using is they're saying, well, we need to develop a vaccine.
Sure.
But the thing has been dead like a velociraptor, extinct, since 1918, and it won't happen again because the 1918 virus was a creation of thanks to a typhus fever vaccine that started out as the human typhus fever transferred to a swine host and then transferred to chicken embryos for incubation and harvested. So there you have the three links.
Right.
Again, as I've said so many times before, the 1918 pandemic was absolutely linked to contaminated vaccines given to the expeditionary force heading overseas to Europe. At that time, I give it the benefit of the doubt. I think it was an absolute a mistake.
Well, there's another Gulf War syndrome, but going back, almost 70 years, I guess.
But it's totally unconscionable, Jeff, for them in any way, shape, and form to resurrect this and weaponize it.
What they did is they actually took fragments of the virus from deceased miners in Alaska, funded by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, the World Health Organization, and the CDC, and they actually built it using a bioengine and a supercomputer to resurrect the gene sequences. And then de novo created that DNA sequence and actually recreated the virus.
And what's really interesting, as I told Dr. Bill is just this evening, the Chinese news agency reporting on this went even so far as to explain that their factory lab in Canada is the laboratory that is dissecting these the influenza virus samples from Mexico City.
The Chinese?
How is the Chinese labs in Canada involved in this?
Interesting.
It's tied in with the lab in Winnipeg, which is a major reference lab, and the Canadians were caught shipping H1N1, which is a pandemic flu, incorrectly and without proper precautions around the world, as well as many other BSL 3 and 4 labs. But Canadians were caught too.
Wow. All right. Hold on. Let's take a break.